of the state. Our state treasurer is here, and as we all know, we've been kind of focusing on our own financial challenges, and I suppose they pale in comparison to what the state of Arizona is going through, and our state treasurer is here to talk with us about that, and he's told me that he really prefers an interactive dialogue, so if you have questions, ideas, things that you want to throw out, I think that's really what we're about this morning. Before I turn the mic over to Mr. Martin, let me read a little bit about his bio. State Treasurer Dean Martin serves as the Chief Financial Officer for the state of Arizona, overseeing over $12 billion in assets under management, responsible for the prudent custody and management of state and local monies. The State Treasurer is a statewide constitutional officer, third in line of succession to the governor. The Treasurer also serves as the Chairman of the State Board of Investment and the State Surveyor General, and on the State Land Selection Board. Treasurer Martin was previously a state senator, chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, vice chairman of Judiciary, and senior member of Appropriations. Dean has also been recognized nationally as a hero of the taxpayer, and as senator, Treasurer Martin sponsored and passed tax relief legislation that repealed the marriage tax penalty, repealed Arizona's death tax, and eliminated Arizona's statewide property tax and ended decades of automatic inflationary income tax increases. Treasurer Martin and his wife of 13 years, Carrie, are expecting their first child at the end of May. He's a graduate of Arizona State University, where he earned a degree in small business administration and entrepreneurship. Please welcome our State Treasurer, Dean Martin.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Dean Martin, but I'm not going to sing, sorry. I run the bank for the state of Arizona. Every dollar you pay in taxes, fees, assessments, those little flashes on the freeway, money from the vending machines at the Capitol, literally every dime the state collects, no matter what its source, has to be deposited with my office. Last fiscal year, we took in over $39.1 billion in deposits. So if you want to know the real size of state government, it's over $39 billion. The general fund is only one of the over 1,800 different accounts that we manage for the state of Arizona. And in fact, we don't just manage the state's money. We also manage money for local, the State Land Trust Endowment, as well as for local governments. 140 local governments choose to voluntarily deposit their money with our office. And what we do is we pool that local government dollars with the state dollars, and we're able to get a higher rate of return for the combined total than either one of us would be able to do on their own. And plus, it saves the local, cities, counties, community colleges, water districts, fire districts, tribal nations. They don't have to run a full investment trading room or manage outside investors. They just pool their dollars with us, and we can provide a return for them. So we provide both state and local governments a service there. And in fact, in this last year, actually the last 2 years that I've been treasurer, we've seen some interesting changes going on in the economic world. We've actually, in the state side, the state bank balances have been dropping. Was $5 billion of state money, then $4 billion, and now we're down to $3 billion across all accounts. What happens when the state spends more than it makes? Anybody spends more than you make, your bank balances tend to go down, don't they? State's been going down to the tune of about $1 billion a year for the last 2 years. It's how fast they've been burning through cash reserves. Whereas on the local government side, the local governments are now our largest customer. We grew from $4 to $5 billion, our local government deposits. So we've added, not a lot of banks out there can say they've increased their deposits by 20% this last year, but we did that through local government. So now we really consider you our biggest customer. And we are also the agency that does distribution. So although we don't control, we're like any normal bank. We hold all the money, but we don't control what our customers do with it. That's still up to them. That's the legislature and the governor and the various agencies decide what to do, but we're the custodians of that. And we also are a check and a balance to the process. We stop a couple $1 million worth of fraud every year where people are trying to basically steal state money by counterfeiting state checks or state warrants. And that's one of the processes that we work through. So I'd be glad to really open up, talk about anything you want to talk about. We can talk about, we actually predicted at our office, I predicted this recession. We were warning about this downturn back in January and February of 2007. I'd be glad to talk about how we did that. How did we see this coming? Where do we think things are going? Be glad to talk about what's happening on the federal level with the stimulus money that's coming in. What's that going to do to our economy? What's that going to be in long-term nationally? What's going on the state side? What's the impact of the foreclosure proposal that the president brought out? We can talk about that long-term in the economic world as well. We can talk about the state budget and what's happening there. I really want to open it up to all of these different types of questions. And we can talk about the Suns and whether or not they're going to make it to the playoffs. Really anything you really want to get into and talk about. Yes?
If you don't mind speaking about the stimulus package and how you see it affecting the state, as well as stripping down what you see as going to be available for local government.
Okay, let me give you, I'm going to break this into two parts. First of all, the actual dollars and how they're going to move. Basically, right now, as of today, we got an emergency distribution last Thursday for $307 million into the state. And that was literally the only way we were able to make payroll on Friday and the school payment on Monday. The general fund was next to zero. And without that money, we would not have been able to make the school payments that we had to do on Monday. And so we've drawn down the first drawdown. We expect roughly $500 million for the state in what we call cash equivalent dollars, stuff, basically money that offsets other expenditures we'd normally have to make or is a replacement, extra cash. We can just treat it as cash effectively. And in the next 2 years, about $1 billion a year in what will be cash equivalent. Primarily what that does is it's changing the percentage that normally you have to do basically 1/3 state money, 2/3 federal money. They're adjusting that formula where it's 75-25. So we don't have to pay as much to draw down federal dollars in the healthcare arena. So that effectively gives us more cash. There's also about $1 billion of other monies that are pass-through monies. These are dollars that will not affect our cash balance, will not help our budget situation, but will end up going through to various either education or local governments or transportation projects. And those things will be basically, once the project's approved, it will be as the bill comes due, we pay for it and then get reimbursed. And so it basically is a kind of you don't have the money more than a day. We've actually been talking to GAO back in the federal GAO and seeing if they can reverse that. We've got, a cash flow crisis. Can we possibly have them allow us to draw down that money before we pay the bill and not have to pay the bill, then get reimbursed by the federal dollars because cash is in short supply right now? We'll see if that actually gets changed down the road. But that would be a definite improvement for us because of operationally, when you're low on cash, it's hard to do some projects. You may know you're going to get the money, but if you don't have the cash to pay the bill today, you can't draw down the federal funds. So that's the short version of the dollars that are coming in and what we expect. One of the problems we have on the state level is there's about $600 million of budget stabilization money that we expect that would normally be part of those future $1 billion for the next 2 years. The state's probably going to have to draw down this year because the economy's continued to erode. It's actually gotten worse in the last few weeks. Our tax collections have really dropped off below what was expected. And I can talk to you about why that happened. If you want, but the problem we're running into is they have not finished the application form yet or the rules for a lot of the money. It's one of the big drawbacks. They haven't exactly decided what the rules are going to be yet on how to draw it down, so that's why you don't have more detail than what you've got right now. And so they hope, we were having this discussion with them, they hope they'll have the form completed by the end of this month, so that we can fill out the form, send it back to them, and then draw down more money, and that's going to take a few more weeks. And why we're watching this so closely is we have a big school payment due on April 15th. It's a double school payment. We don't have enough cash in the bank to cover that school payment right now. We don't expect to receive enough cash to cover that payment between now and then. And if we don't get that federal funding